Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. Welcome back to my playthrough of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. On this part, we're going to be doing Case 5 now. So we've gotten through 4 cases. Let's do Case 5, and this is the final case in the first game, I believe. So this is probably going to be the hardest case that we've come across so far. Start playing from this save game yes, The Adventure of the Unspeakable Story. That's the name of the 5th case. Let's see what this is about. The Hound of the Baskervilles. A hound it was, but not such a hound as any mortal has ever seen. Its eyes glowed with a smoldering glare.
It's coming! Sholmes' cry pierced through the thick wall of fog around us. Wisps of vapor flowed over the pistol as I cocked it, and I waited, breathlessly, in the stillness. The silence lasted for what seemed an eternity, until, at last, it appeared. From the shadows of the cloud, an enormous beast sprang out upon us. A hound it was, but not such a hound as any mortal has ever seen. Its eyes glowed with a smoldering glare. The whole of its ox-sized body was outlined in white-hot flames. Its rumbling pant and hideous howl, so terrified was I that I began to tremble with fear. "Look well, Wilson," Sholmes declared, gazing upon the mystical beast. "For this is the diabolical Hound of the Baskervilles."
What is that supposed to mean exactly? Our first 2 months in London passed by in a flash. In that disconnecting courtroom experience we were first thrown into on the day we arrived in the country, and in Sasaki-san's terrible ordeal that had followed closely behind, we had emerged victorious. However, there then came an abrupt end to our opportunities to appear in court, which was hardly surprising, of course, since I was nothing more than an amateur, an unknown student of law from a faraway land. So life in our little office was very quiet. That is, until it was shattered one day by that fateful telegram. What telegram? 15th April, 9:13 a.m. Okay, so it's spring now. Naruhodo's legal consultancy. Well, they've really moved things around here. That morning, I was woken by the unreserved knocking on the door by the telegram boy. But after he'd gone, Susato-san's behavior became very obviously strange. Susato-san? Yes? Okay. Is it time to leave for court already? Let me see. What case is it today? I don't think I'm scheduled to defend anyone at the moment, am I? Oh no, of course not. How silly of me. But I think Iris said she would make us breakfast this morning. So shall we go down to Mr. Sholmes' suite? Yes. Iris makes the most delicious breakfast food. She does, doesn't she? And once our bellies are full, we can leave for court in fighting fit form. Let me see. What case is it today? Here we go again. The telegram. So, what was it about? The telegram that was delivered this morning, I mean. Oh, a telegram. I don't know what you're talking about. That's how they did long-range communication back then, was through telegrams. Sorry, but you're not going to get away with that. Well, I didn't think I would. Actually, don't give it a moment's thought. It's nothing. Nothing interesting. Boring, in fact. It was just a boring old telegram. That's 3 times now that she's tried and failed to convince me it was nothing. I promise that I'll tell you about it at some point. Alright, I understand. Sasaki-san? I suppose Sasaki-san will have arrived back in Japan by now, won't he? Yes, I should think so. He left immediately after that terrible ordeal, which would mean he should have completed the voyage already or be just a few days away. A fortnight ago, we had that very long telegram from him, do you remember? Complaining of seasickness. But by and large, it seems the voyage has been going well. Is something wrong, Naruhado-san? I was just wondering, what might have become of Sasaki-san had he stayed in London, that's all. You mean, as regards, Lord Van Zieks the Reaper? Yes, I can't help wondering if seasickness would have paled into insignificance in that case. They're talking about the murders, so, like, the, people are, like, murdered, when they're found not guilty by the Reaper, when the Reaper loses a case. But I don't think he's the one that's doing it. What is it they say? That no one who stands in the dock can be saved from the Reaper, right? Like the way that nightmarish trial ended on the very day we arrived in London. Even 2 months on, the cause of that dreadful fire is still a mystery. Yes, but at least Sasaki-san is safely out of the country now. Presumably that means that the curse of the Reaper can only take effect within the confines of the city of London, perhaps. Even if that's the case, it's little comfort. I have a terrible sense of foreboding. If the legend of the Reaper is to be believed, it would mean he wields the sword of justice himself. Come to think of it, I wonder what he's been up to these past 2 months. Surely, not wielding that sword against more acquitted defendants. No, I don't think so. Apparently, Lord Van Zieks hasn't appeared in court once since our last encounter. Oh. Yes, since Sasaki-san's trial, he's withdrawn from judicial service again, it seems. Really? Just like before, when he wasn't seen in court at all for several years, but then he came back. I wonder why. So it's just been me who's had to face him in the recent spate of trials then. Just my luck. I wonder if luck doesn't come into it. Sorry? What was that? Oh, nothing. Never mind. Sholmes is sweet. 15th April, Sholmes, sweet. Morning, Runo. Morning, Susie. Good morning, Iris. Irish. What is it, Runo? What is that terrible noise? It sounds like a cat being strangled. Ah, yes. You noticed that, did you? Hurley isn't in the best form this morning, it seems. Hello. What's wrong now here? Hello, Mr. Sholmes? Good morning. A good morning to die, perhaps. Has something happened, Mr. Sholmes? You look miserable, and the way you were playing the violin before. My analytical mind is dead. Music is dead. The world is dead. Damn this blanched existence. That's all it is, my dear fellow. Nothing of consequence. I'm afraid I don't understand. Well, Irish, isn't it time we ate? Some dry toast, and insipid coffee for me, if it's not too much trouble. Is that a cat? What the? Oh, look, it's Wagahai. Good morning, boy. Oh, wait, is that the same cat that was in Natsume's, apartment or lodge? That must be some sort of tiny door for cats to use. But how did it get in here? Well then, everyone, time for breakfast. Oh, wonderful. Let me help you, Iris. It would indeed be a fine day to die. I knew something looked different. Something's missing from Mr. Sholmes' desk. You seem to be very unhappy this morning, Mr. Sholmes. What's happened? It used to be the case that in my hands, this violin sung like the dawn chorus. Its melisonant tones would make flowers bloom. It would. But now, the muses are unamused with me. The goddess of music have thrown me over. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? For hours I have bowed, for days even. Through the night I have endeavored to no avail. That sound, my tone, is lost. That brilliant, clear, unwavering tone, gone forever. No more recitals of unbridled emotion. What is he talking about? Well, you haven't been practicing that much lately, have you, Hurley? Don't worry, I'm sure it will come back to you in time. Heed my words, Mr. Naruhodo. The goddess of the arts are fickle. One day they bestow genius on a man. Next, they unmercifully withdraw it. Oh, dear. Why is this happening to me? If they take the turn I have for the violin from me, what is left for pity's sake? What is left? Deduction, perhaps. Isn't that what you're known for? The missing machine. Mr. Sholmes, I don't like to pry, but your desk looks rather empty today. Ah, well done, Miss Susato. Your observational skills, do you credit. Oh no, Mr. Sholmes. They pale into insignificance when compared to yours. You'd struggle not to notice, wouldn't you? You mean Hurley's great analytoscope? That's at, Windy Banks now. Sorry? It's at a Windy Bank? No, Windy Banks. The pawnbrokery. Pawn? What? You mean you've pawned that enormous machine of yours? It has some considerable value, you see. Quite undeservingly. But isn't it a very important machine for your work? I do wish you had consulted us if your situation had become so desperate. I should have gladly passed what little income I have to you. Dear madam, things are far from desperate. But the pawnbrokery has your wonderful machine. How could it be anything but desperate? Making use of a pawnbrokery is quite ordinary here in London, I assure you. It is? It doesn't sound ordinary at all. It would seem that neither of you fully understand how pawnbroking works. Oh, what's to understand exactly? A pawn shop that takes, you give them an item that's of considerable value. They give you a loan that's a little bit less than the item. And so that way, you pay off the loan, you get your item back. If you don't pay off the loan, the item belongs to the shop then sells it to get their money back. What did you mean when you said we didn't fully understand how pawnbroking works? To the people of London, pawnbrokeries are akin to banks. Banks. On Mondays, merchants relinquish their finest jackets and trappings to their pawnbroker of choice. With the money they receive in return, they are able to trade happily through the week. And then on Saturdays, they go to recover their things using the money they've earned. I had no idea. This has been a fascinating lesson for us. Everyone does it, you see, especially people in inner London. And should they have money to spare, they would purchase another fine jacket. Not to wear, obviously, but to pawn, should the need arise. Oh, how ingenious. So whenever we have something that's getting in the way, we leave it at Windy Banks, you see? A pawnbrokery can be thought of as an extremely secure vault. Who would have thought that even pawnbrokers are different here in Great Britain? Of course, you have to watch Hurley with it. Sometimes he pawns things he really shouldn't. Don't you, Hurley? What does it matter? The world is dead to me now. Okay. What do we do now? What to do? Can it really be that we've been in Great Britain for 2 months already? Yes, it's gone by in a flash, hasn't it? And what an English gentleman you trailed off there, Susato-san. I'm so sorry. When I thought it through, I realized it's not at all true, actually. I simply don't feel that any Britishness has really rubbed off on you. Nor you, to be honest. Well, that's obviously because, yes, I know. Without a doubt, it's your kimono. It more certainly stands out. I do adore the attire of English ladies. It's quite delightful. But somehow, I just don't feel ready to abandon my Japanese dress just yet. I wonder how Susato-san would look in Western clothes. That would be interesting to see. Oh, I gotta examine, I guess. Mr. Natsume's cat seems to have settled into his new home then. Oh yes, and I've become very attached to little Waggy. It would appear his previous owner is completely forgotten to him. Cats are unfeeling creatures. Their meows are empty as the heart of the muses. If Mr. Natsume had no intention of taking Waggy back to Japan, I wonder why he kept him in the first place. I expect he would have taken him if he could. But pets are strictly forbidden aboard steamships in our experience. And for good reason. Terrible things can happen if the rules of passage are not obeyed. Well, I don't mind, because Waggy is adorable. Yes, he really is. Oh yes, what about the door? I don't remember seeing that tiny thing in the main door before. Where did it come from? Oh, you noticed? You are observant, Runo. Look, I use this. It's my latest invention. What is that? I call it the cat flapomat? Gosh, a machine for making doors just for cats? That's right, it can make a cat flap for a little furry friend like Waggy in seconds. And it can do it in any door at all, no matter what it's made of. It's very powerful, you see. Wouldn't it have been quicker just to make the cat flap rather than making a machine to make the cat flap? Well, yes, maybe, but now I can make the cat flaps anywhere I like. Oh, I think it's wonderful. What a weird machine. You must make one for us in the door of our office upstairs, Iris. She really knows how to come up with unconventional inventions, this girl. Heh. Oh, what was that? Wagahai? What just happened? What was that? Oh no. Wagahai's tangled up in your violin. I think he thinks it's a toy. No, what's he doing to it? Oh dear, Mr. Sholmes' precious violin. Why should I care? What? I shouldn't be surprised. If the cat is a more accomplished musician than I now. Mr. Sholmes really is in poor spirits, isn't he? Well, anyway, I'll put it back where it lives, shall I, Hurley? Out of the cat's reach, if possible. Maybe we should assess the damage. So this is the violin, is it? It's a Stradivarius, one of the finest violins in the world, made by the renowned Italian luthier Antonio Stradivari. Oh, I see. It doesn't really look like anything special to me. I happened upon it covered in dust, languishing in a pawn shop down a nondescript back alley. The broker had no idea of its value, so I was able to purchase it for a mere 55 shillings. How honorable of you. And until today, it had been my faithful companion in every great Paganini-inspired performance I've made. I ask you, is there a reason to live in a world devoid of music, to tolerate this blank's existence? No. There is none. Mr. Sholmes? What, dear madam, what? My thoughts are preoccupied with fancies of release from this dull routine. Well, it's about the violin. It looks very different to normal, don't you think? What do you mean, Miss Susato? Oh, Susie's right. Yes. The tone of the wood is completely different. And that's not all. I'm sure there was no crack here before. Wait, it's not even the right size, is it? What's this? I'm terribly sorry to have to tell you this, Mr. Sholmes, but that instrument isn't a violin at all. Then what? I believe it's an entirely different instrument called a viola. What? Oh, Mr. Sholmes, are you all right? You're right. You are quite right. This isn't my fateful Stradivarius. So what, pray, is this piece of stringed flotsam? Not your faithful performing partner, then? Then where did this thing come from? Ah, I see what must have happened. You do, Iris? He probably took the wrong thing from the pawn shop. This is just a simple mix-up. It sounds like Iris might be able to tell us exactly what's happened if we ask her. What do you mean by a mix-up, Iris? Well, you see, this viola, I mean, was at Windybanks until last week. At the pawnbroker's? Not Mr. Sholmes' beloved musical partner. There is a proverb from the East, with which you are no doubt familiar, my dear fellows. Always let a beloved child travel. Yes, indeed. So you sent your beloved viola to the pawnbrokers in hope that it would experience personal growth? Oh, what a wonderful idea. Last week I pawned my great analytoscope in order to release my precious instrument. But it would appear Mr. Windybank mistakenly furnished me with this tawdry fiddle instead. But my ears cannot be deceived by the hollow timbre of this piece of timber. No, but your every sense was deceived by the fact that it just had strings. A fine state of affairs this is, and why I always say, Mr. Naruhodo, never trust a pawnbroker, they will try to fiddle you every time. But earlier you told us that you could think of a pawnbrokery as an exemplary secure vault. He did. Come, Mr. Naruhodo, dilly-dallying will get you nowhere. Sorry? Crunching your toast with that vacant aspect, freshening your coffee so obtusely. Are you not a little embarrassed by your own conduct, considering the urgency with which we are faced? We must visit Mr. Windybank's brokery at once. That's right, isn't it, Mr. Sholmes? Precisely, Miss Susato, without a moment's delay. But I haven't finished my bacon and eggs. My dear fellow, surely you do not still intend to crunch your bacon with an increasingly vacant aspect, to fess your egg ever more obtusely. Alright, say no more. Let's go then. Don't worry, Runo. I'd be happy to heat it up for you again later. Oh, thank you, Iris. As it happens, I am rather curious to see what a British pawnbrokery looks like. Okay, let's head on over there then. Baker Street. Let's go to Baker Street first then. Oh, I guess nothing here. "15th April, Windybanks Pawnbrokery." So this is a British pawnbrokery. Oh my, there are all sorts of tools and contraptions here that I've never laid eyes on before. Ah, Susato-san, and that spark of wonder in your eyes. You can't wait to secure the shelves, can you? I get the impression you enjoy places like this. Oh yes, I don't know why, but seeing such a lot of things I don't understand is a real thrill for me. My dear fellows, let's not forget why we are here. Oh, Mr. Sholmes. We are calling on matters of business, not pleasure. And clearly Mr. Sholmes means business too, judging from the spark of fury in his eyes. Ah, Mr. Sholmes, sir, welcome back. Did you hear that brazen welcome? Well, yes, we are potential customers after all. We are disgruntled customers, Mr. Naruhodo, and it's time to inform Mr. Windybank of our ear. Come. The fight is afoot. He's gonna complain to customer service now? Converse. Violin. Naturally, you will recall this, which I retrieved from you some days ago. Yes. This second-rate fiddle is not my faithful instrument, Mr. Windybank. The color of the wood is different, it has holes in it, it's not even the same size. A wonderful summary of our observations, Mr. Sholmes. I'm so very sorry, sir. How utterly unforgivable of me, an excusable mistake for a pawnbroker. There's only one way to make amends. Where is he going? Is that a gun? I shall have to take my own life. What? I don't think that will be necessary, do you? If I may just say one thing before I pop off. This guy's really dedicated to his service, to an extreme, yes? It was you, sir, Mr. Sholmes, who took it upon himself to remove the item the other day, I believe. Sorry? As I recall, I entered the storeroom to fetch your violin when I heard, ah, here it is. You did. And when I turned to controvert you, you had taken the viola and left, sir. However, there can be no doubt that the blame lies firmly at my own door for allowing you to leave. So I shall not grumble or grouse any longer, and may the guilt die with me. No, stop, my dear fellow, the fault is mine. Phew. It would appear that the fight is over. I do humbly apologize, Mr. Windybank. Evidently, my questionable disposition precipitated this tragedy. Well, you wouldn't be Mr. Herlock Sholmes without that questionable disposition now, would you? Haha, I do believe you may be right, sir. It's either laugh or cry, I suppose. You are, it must be said, one of my more challenging customers. I needn't remind you of the peculiar collection of items you've brought through my door in the past. Oh, peculiar items? In the extreme, ma'am. For example, the unpublished manuscript of an eponymous work, the novels of Herlock Sholmes or some such. Oh my, a new full-fledged novel. And unpublished. A story I've yet to read, you mean? Ah, forgive me. Wait, before you die, you must tell me more. I like how she's more concerned with the novel first. Unpublished story. I must know more. Tell me everything. Wow, Susato-san is really fired up now. Is there really an unpublished story under this very roof? Well, one day the gentleman here brought in an old metal chest, you see. I should like to entrust this to your care for a while, Mr. Windybank. For a chest like that, 1 shilling, sir, not a farthing more. It houses something of very great value indeed. The latest manuscript, recounting the adventures of one Mr. Herlock Sholmes. I beg your pardon, a manuscript? You wish to deposit a manuscript? Indeed I do, for I am confident it will be quite safe here. And that was that. As such, Mr. Sholmes' latest tale of otherworldly mystery lies dormant in my storeroom. Mr. Sholmes, is that really true? Do I sense that someone doesn't want to talk about this? I continue to pay your fee, do I not? Then kindly continue to store my belongings securely. Of course, sir, of course. They're safe and sound with me, I assure you, on my life. This is all very strange. I wonder, could I ask you something? Ah, gentleman from the east, I see. Yes, that sable suit. I suppose I could offer you 6 pence for it. I don't think the suit's for sale. Without wishing to offend, the tone is somewhat dull. Sorry? Aha, but for your splendid attire, ma'am, 5 guineas, no less. The colors are exquisite, the design exotic. Eastern artistry at its finest, may I say. Oh my, you say. How interesting. Why do I feel as though I've suffered some sort of defeat here? Actually, I was hoping to ask you about your business. I've heard it said that pawnbrokeries are used rather like banks here in London. Yes, sir, indeed. Many of my customers utilize the establishment as you described. I appraise their items and offer them a proportionate loan and 2 months of secure storage. If in that time they repay the original sum to me, plus the agreed interest, their items are happily returned. If not, the pawn shop takes it. But what happens if they don't pay you the money? Then the items are offered for sale in my shop, as you can see on the shelves behind me. So you never sell items before the 2 months has passed then? That's right, ma'am, that's right. Which means some considerable responsibility rests on my shoulders. Should a customer's precious belongings be lost, the only recompense is for me to end it all. The very idea, Mr. Windybag, is an absurdity. One should never talk of one's demise so casually, says the man who was telling us it was a good day to die only this morning. And let's not forget that I have already helped you take measures to ensure such a tragedy never occurs. On what sort of measures? I engineered a simple device, which Mr. Windybag has installed here in the shop. I call it the red-handed recorder. If that not so, Mr. Windybag. Ha. What was that deep sigh about? What on earth is a red-handed recorder? Use your eyes, my dear fellow. There are 2 just below the ceiling. I can see what appears to be a camera attached to some sort of timing device. Very astute. It is indeed a camera furnished with some 100 pieces of celluloid film. And every 30 minutes precisely, the camera automatically records the appearance of the shop. Here I have an example I can show you. So this is like one of the first forms of a security camera. Yes, a print from the camera. It's not like recording video, but it just takes pictures. And I'm guessing that's to see if anything was taken. It developed a special type of film so sensitive it produces a crystal clear image even in darkness. Really? That's extraordinary. Yes, you can clearly see the counter and the door behind it. Look. So you see, were somebody to enter the premises with ill intent, his identity would summarily be exposed. But did you not say that the photographic prints were taken at 30-minute intervals? Indeed, as you say, my dear madam. Then what if the incident were to occur in between times? One could only say, that would be a cruel twist of fate. That's kind of stupid that it only takes a picture every 30 minutes. I must confess, your devices have been giving me some cause for distress of late. I beg your pardon, Mr. Windybag. Surely they are anything but distressing. Reassuring is the word. It's the cost of the film, sir. You most graciously placed not 1, but 2 cameras in my shop after all. Yeah, that's right, film would be expensive to make in this time period. Which means I must pay for nigh on 100 utterly useless prints every single day. I'm afraid the cost of film will break me before I'm very much older. Nevertheless, a small price to pay to ensure the safety of my preferred pawnbrokery, no? My dear fellows, we verge on an age where safety and security come at a price. Oh, heaven help us. Now then, Mr. Sholmes, allow me to return your precious violin. Ah, the very thing. Thank you, Mr. Windybag. Perhaps this might mark the end of the peculiar items you try to pop, Because if anything were to happen to one of them, this would be the only answer. Yeah, this guy has some problems. I really think you ought to stop waving that gun around. Someone could get hurt. Fear not. Sorry. I've only loaded a single bullet, so no one but myself could possibly be harmed. That's, not really what I meant. Good day to you, then, Mr. Windybank. It's been a pleasure as always, Mr. Sholmes. So, Mr. Naruhodo, now we can explore at last. Okay, I'm gonna get just a drink of water, guys. Be right back in one moment. Okay, let's continue here. We've already talked to the pawn shop guy. What is there to look for in this store? This is the camera thing, right? Now, what do you suppose this rather enormous machine does? It seems to have two little windows for looking through. Allow me to enlighten you, my dear fellows. What you're looking at is a stereoscope. A stereos... fascinating. It is aptly named, I assure you. Look through the eyepieces and see for yourself. Oh, I should be delighted to. Excuse me for a moment while I just have a look. Just before you do, there is something I should point out. My dear fellows, in order to see the image properly, stereoscopically, as it were, you will need to be cross-eyed. However, if that is beyond you, it is of little consequence today. Alright then, I'm going to try it. Ah! Mr. Naruhodo, you must see, at once. Oh, alright then. So I need to be cross-eyed like I'm trying to look at my own nose. Wait, her? Oh no, not her again. Oh no. This is the evil woman from the first case. I don't believe it. It's just a photographic print, but it seems like you could reach out and touch it. Yes, the sense of depth is startling, is it not? Stereoscopes are one of London's many fads. They are often found in little stalls in the park. People queue for hours to see them. Why? Why are people meddling with such black magic? It is no magic, my dear madam. It is, well, far too complicated to explain at present. We shall save this lesson for another day. But the woman in the picture looked like the woman from the first case, or I could be mistaken, I guess. That's a lot of clocks. My father loves antique clocks like these. That, my dear madam, is a music box. Surely you have seen such things in your own country. Oh my, yes, but I've certainly never seen one so large before. Shall we listen a while? Ah, what a sublime sound. It's like the music of angels. I've never heard anything like it before in my life. This particular specimen is of the larger variety, commonly found in public houses and restaurants. There is a metal disc inside, which the notes to be played are recorded. Simply by replacing the disc with another, any music you care to imagine can be played. My goodness, what a simply delightful machine. Indeed, though their popularity has waned recently with the development of the gramophone, of course. Ha. Science and technology advance at such an overwhelming pace. You know, it's kind of crazy, you know, you think about it, like, this is how people used to listen to music back in the day, and like, now it's like, you know, then we had, like, you know, you had, like, the old records, VCRs, DVDs, CDs, Blu-rays, now, and most people don't even use Blu-rays anymore. Now most people just listen to MP3, you know, download everything. That's not a calendar you could easily miss, is it? 15th April, today's date. Yes, that's not for sale, I must point out. It's an Eastern-style page-a-day calendar. Every night at midnight, I tear off the front page to reveal the following day's date. The perfect calendar for a tearaway fellow such as yourself, Mr. Windybank. And who was it who walked out of here with the wrong violin before? Well, when the agreed storage period has passed, if our repayment articles are forfeited, you see. So I have to keep a close eye on the date. It's something of a pawnbroker's obsession, you might say. Oh yes, I can see you're very dedicated to your job. Okay, I don't think there's not really anything else left for us to look here. What is this? There seems to be a little door hidden behind that curtain there. That leads to the storage room, where Mr. Windybank keeps articles that are currently in pawn. Ah, I see. There's nothing of particular interest inside. I certainly wouldn't recommend any larcenous activity. Recommend or not, it's not something I tend to do. There is but one key, and Mr. Windybank keeps it in his pocket at all times. Before he sleeps, he places it into a small pot, which he slides under his pillow. How on earth do you know about that, Mr. Sholmes? I am a detective, sir. It is my business to know what others do not. I am frequently assailed by information that I neither care for nor wish to retain. Mr. Sholmes, you are a wonder, and the prime suspect if this pawnbrokery is ever burgled. Okay. Where are we gonna go? Baker Street? No, Sholmes' suite? Okay, I'm confused what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I love this game so much, and like the style, like, you know, the point-and-click adventures and stuff. This is definitely my favorite game of 2021. What an assortment of things there are on these shelves here. Crockery, footwear, clocks, and watches. Almost anything you care to imagine. Those are forfeited items offered for sale by the pawnbroker. What does that really mean, though? When you pawn or colloquially pop an item, the broker loans you money against its worth. He stores the item for an agreed period of time, after which the loan must be repaid. If not, he is free to display it in his shop for sale at a price of his choosing. Oh yes, now you've explained it. I'm noticing a little price tags on everything. Of course, simply by paying the agreed interest on the loan, one can extend the period of safekeeping. So you may pawn that black garbs of yours without fear, my dear fellow. My treasured university uniform, never. It embodies my student spirit. But, you know, pawn shops aren't really meant for safe storage. They're just meant for people to try to get a loan. So people want a loan for, you know, they want money, temporarily. What is this here? Look at that enormous ledger open on the counter there. Mr. Windybank is nothing else very particular about recording the items he accepts. He'd have to be, otherwise he'd get himself into all sorts of trouble, which might explain the thing that catches my eye far more than the ledger. This revolver here. Do not entertain even a single thought of pilfering an article here, my dear fellow, I assure you, Mr. Windybank would not hesitate to draw that weapon with a speed bellying his portly size. Oh, you don't mean he'd blow his brains out? Indeed. In recompense for his blunder? Oh my. But in any case, of course, we would never do such a thing. How could you even suggest it? But yeah, in this time period, you know, there wasn't really any pistols. Like, what year does this game take place? I mean, revolver is a pistol, but I'm talking about semi-auto pistols. They didn't really exist in this time period. You know, you started having, like, early prototypes, like, you know, the years before World War I. Okay, I can't figure out what to do here now. I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now. Looks like we got everything from the store, right? And you know, this is the part about Ace Attorney, when you have like the investigations, because this counts as an investigation. There's two parts of the game: investigation days and trial days. The investigation days can sometimes be a bit confusing because you don't know exactly what you're supposed to do. You can get confused on where you're supposed to go, what's to do. I think everything's looked at right here. Maybe there's something I missed here. It's already been 2 months since we started taking lodgings here above Mr. Sholmes' office. That's a really nice building. I still can't quite believe it. I never expected things would turn out like this. Oh, I know. To actually be sharing accommodations with the world's greatest detective. If I ever find myself before a court of law now, I will have not one regret. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'd be happy to defend you, of course. Oh, and this is the pawn shop here. Look at all the different things in the window of the shop. Ah, that's Windybank's, the pawnbrokery. It looks much smaller than a pawnbroker in Japan, doesn't it? And, in this game, I noticed that you can go from place to place, like, in the other Ace Attorney games, you had to go from one section to the other to visit it, so you would have to go to the street, and then you'd have to go to the store, but you can go from Mr. Sholmes' apartment right to the store. I find pawn shops at home rather inapproachable. It reminds me of tearfully parting with my favorite fountain pen. I felt so miserable. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger, Mr. Naruhodo. This is where Iris notes down ideas, isn't it? Let's see, what does it say today? The Boscom Valley Mystery. Oh, how intriguing. It must be the title of Iris's latest work. Oh my, I wonder what fantastic tale awaits us. Susato-san looks like an angel, but I bet she's dreaming of the most unsavory crime you could imagine. And this is a typewriter. Come to think of it, I haven't seen Iris doing much writing recently. But there's paper already set up in the typewriter, look. As if she's about to start. This is how people typed up things before computers. That reminds me, when I mentioned that Iris was in the process of writing a full-fledged novel, Mr. Natsume was most impressed. Ah yes, Mr. Natsume. That's what I'll be doing too, once I'm back in Japan, he said, through tightly clenched fists and teeth. Look at Mr. Sholmes' desk, it's completely clear. Isn't that enormous machine usually on it? We can never hope to understand what goes on in the great detective's mind, Mr. Naruhodo. Why, next time we're invited, we may find he's vacated the entire suite. That's scarily plausible, actually. Wonder if I can, present? No, I can't present. I am, like, really confused right now. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just really confused on what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I think we're done in here. I don't think there's... What's the last thing we said in the shop? There's something that I missed, We've only been here in London for about 2 months, but my desk is starting to look a little messy already. You could tidy it up once in a while. Susato-san, I always say, making a mess is a small sacrifice to pay for being able to further your studies. And time spent tidying up is time you can't devote to the same cause. And time spent on ridiculous arguments is time that could be spent on some simple housework. He wins, but I'm supposed to be the lawyer here. This is probably Susato's desk. This must be the telegram. Let's see. Ah. No, you mustn't look at that. Not under any circumstances, alright? I won't. I'm so sorry, Ms. Naruhado-san, but you can be very mischievous at times. Then put the telegram away if you don't want people looking at it. What's this up here? The fire is burning comfortably in the grate again today. It's a very different feeling to a Japanese hibachi somehow. Oh, look at that photographic print of a lady displayed on the mantelpiece. Could it be? Yes, it must be. It's the woman. Oh, how exciting. Is that supposed to mean something to me? Are you sure we've asked everything we need to, Mr. Naruhado? So it looks like she gives you hints on the locations that you go to, so it looks like we haven't asked everything here. There's something that we're missing. Look at this. Whatever could it be used for? So is this it? I have no idea. There's a small catch just here, look. We're going to open it, aren't we? Oh my, that's amazing. It has some sort of spring-loaded mechanism, which we'll never manage to put back the way it was before. What are you two doing? What, us? Nothing. No, nothing at all. Whatever this device is, it seems to have a pair of little windows to look through. I feel as though I've seen something rather similar to this elsewhere. What? Only tuppence for it? That ain't fair and you know it. The article's barely worth a penny, miss. I cannot offer more. What? Sounds like there's an argument brewing over by the counter. Come on, that can't be right. Are you even at a proper butcher at it? I've seen all I need to see, young girl. Wait, don't we know? I'm sure I recognize her, yup. It's the young lady from Mr. McGilded's trial 2 months ago. It's the pickpocket girl, yup. Gina Lestrade. She's a chancer, earns her crust among large crowds, relieving people of their purses. What are commonly called a pickpocket. So Gina's here, so we might actually get some answers on what happened to McGilded. Gordon Bennett, you lot. Hello, Mr. Lestrade. I hope you've been well. Hey, what? You remember me then, do ya? Well, I remember being completely surrounded by smoke, that's for sure. So what are you doing in here? Down and out, like the rest of us. Nothing to eat? Come to pop that black weasel sorry coat, have ya? What is it about that black uniform that makes everyone comment on it? Ah, good day. Unless I'm much mistaken. You would be the young pickpocket who stole our experimental smoke grenade launcher. Ah, Mr. Sholmes. So, you have something of value to pawn, do you? Allow me to see the article, and I shall negotiate with Mr. Windibank on your behalf. Pull the other one. I don't need no help from some stuck-up D. Get out of my business. Go on, or I'll make trouble for you. As you wish, Miss Lestrade. I will happily remove myself from your presence. He's really done it. He's gone. I'm sorry, but as I said, there really is no room for negotiation here. What is it that thing he has in his hands? Some kind of metal disc? And you, go on. Leave me alone. Oh, Miss Lestrade, just pretend we aren't here. We shan't be offended in the slightest. Susato-san can really stand her ground when she wants to. Whatever. Pawnbroker's customer. Somehow I didn't really think you were the sort of person who would use a pawnbroker, Miss Lestrade. Yeah, well, I am, alright? I am a Londoner, just like everyone else. That's a problem, is it? No, not at all. It's just that, well... Oh, I get it. I know what you're thinking. That thing probably don't even belong to her. Probably got it on the dive, didn't she? Yeah, I can see it written all over your Chevy Chase. Well, I might have been thinking something along those lines. You're not going to deny it, Mr. Naruhodo? Alright then, I'm just going to come out and ask you straight. Do you pawn things that you steal from other people? Well, I don't know best to answer that really, Suppose. Sometimes. By sometimes, he probably means every time. You're not going to deny it either, Miss Lestrade. But not this time, alright, I swear. That thing belongs to me. The disc that Mr. Windibank is holding. Perhaps we should see what he has to say about all this. What is this disc? Like some type of music? Miss Lestrade's disc. Mr. Windibank, what exactly is this metal disc that Miss Lestrade has brought in? It seems to have hundreds of tiny little bumps on its surface. Ah, this is a music disc, you see, for use inside a music box. So like I thought. In a music box. What? You don't even know what a music box is, disc? You Eastern lot ain't too savvy, eh? I know what a music box is. I've just never seen one of these discs before. The small protrusions on the metal disc encode a tune to be played by the music box. You simply insert the disc and set the machine going, and beautiful music plays. It's so incredible. Tell us, what tune is on this disc? Well, I'm afraid I couldn't tell you that. There are so many different types of music box, you see, British-made, German, Swiss. I have no way of knowing which particular machine this disc was made for. Ah, I see. And that's it in a nutshell. I wouldn't have any customers for an item like this, even if the young lady forfeited it. Really, I'm already offering more than I should at a penny. That's a packet of lies. He told me he did. He said it was, well... He? Who? Never you mind, it just ain't right, that's all. The disc worth good money, I know it is. Well then, you'll have to try your luck at another pawnbroker's, won't you? Ah. She's been in before, of course, this little tatterdemalion. I see. And brought some dubious article on or other with her every single time, I might add. Dubious? What are you trying to say? I'm an honest customer, me. So, there's something dubious about the disc she brought in today. Well, if only it were that simple. And the thing is, though, in today's society, at least I don't know how Britain does it, but in America, pretty much most pawn shops to have like a database. I think every pawn shop actually by law has to have a database where every single thing has a record on it that's brought into the pawn shop. And so the police, when they're looking for a stolen item, they can just go and just check the records of what the pawn shop bought that day and just see if the stolen item comes up there. And if the stolen item is there, the police can just take it, and the pawn shop loses money. So pawn shops can lose money by buying stolen stuff. And of course, you know, pawn shops don't know if the item is stolen or not, but, well, if only it were that simple. Sorry, what do you mean? What she actually brought in was a storage ticket. Ah, a storage ticket. So, Miss Lestrade has actually come to redeem an article from you today, is that right? Yeah, that's right. A girl like me's a lot of stuff, what needs storing. Alright, yes, that's definitely dubious. The article in question would have been forfeited at midnight tonight, but as she gave me that ticket for it and repaid both the loan and the interest, I was obliged to return the article to her. But what was the article? Do tell us, Mr. Windibank. The little scamp is wearing it, ma'am. It's the overcoat that she redeemed. Oh. What? What's wrong with that? It fits, don't it? I mean, it's mine, so of course it does. So, what about the disc then? How does that come into all of this? The disc is something else. A new article to pawn if the girl and I can agree a price. New article to pawn. I'm confused. I thought you said that Miss Lestrade brought in a storage ticket today. It's really quite simple. Yes, the child brought me a storage ticket, and the money owed on it, as you say. For this heavy black coat, which you returned to her care as I'd understood it. That's right, yes. And rather unsurprisingly, as soon as the little ragamuffin put the thing on, she went rifling through the pockets. Oh, you mean... What? Don't you know it's rude to stare at a lady? So the disc was in the pocket, I see. So it came from the pocket of the overcoat, did it? If you mean this disc, then yes, exactly, ma'am. And she immediately tried to pawn it for quite a high price as well. This is all rather suspicious, I think. Give it up. I'm just trying to pawn something like anyone else would. Miss Lestrade, may I ask who deposited the overcoat here in the first place? Well, me. It doesn't really appear to be your size. Me old man. It's me old man's, ain't it? Is it, Miss Lestrade? Yes, this is definitely all rather suspicious. Out of my way, please. Who is this guy? Wow, somebody's wearing fancy clothes. Who is this picture postcard English gentleman? Okay, you don't gotta show off like that. Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's the same theme that's playing for McGilded. What's your problem, eh? There is no problem, as long as you remove yourself. I have a matter to discuss with the proprietor. And if you intend to make a problem of it, I shall shoo you outside, little girl, for the hiding you deserve. Look, ain't it obvious? I ain't done talking with him yet. If you think you're such a gent, you should know to wait in line. Well, you are an impudent little brat, aren't you? As well as a pickpocket. Hey? Who are you? How did you know who I am? The question is, how do you not know who I am? You haven't the courtesy even to remember the faces of your victims, it seems. What? You mean from you? Broker? Yes, sir. So she stole from him? I believe this filthy pocket thief has just redeemed an article from you, no? Yes, the article in question belongs to me. I demand for it to be returned at once. Oh my. Now that's a lie. Who are you trying to pull? What are you trying to pull? Give me back my overcoat, you wastrel, and needless to say, any music box discs too. No, you can't have it. You just can't. It's me old man's, or it was, now it's mine. Goodness, Mr. Naruhodo. This is a very awkward situation. Yeah, it is. Yes. I think perhaps we should hear both sides of the story a little more in detail. The gentleman's accusation. Miss Lestrade, is what the gentleman is saying. What do you think? It's all lies, ain't it, obviously? I swear on my life, I ain't never laid eyes on that dandy before. Let's hear it now, you little ragamuffin. You stole it, didn't you? That ticket you brought in here just now. No, I swear it. I swear to God. It was barely an hour ago. I was walking along the street minding my own business when this little gutterling ran into me. I knew at once what had happened. I've been robbed yet again, I thought to myself. Those wretched pickpockets. Yet again. Oh yes, as you can see, I am a man of impeccable style. Well, we can see that. This isn't the first time that I've been targeted by these back slum scoundrels. Now then, relinquish my overcoat. Grr. Come along now, Miss Lestrade. Give the good gentleman his coat back. If you're going to cause trouble, I shall have no choice but to call the police. Hold on. Why everyone thinks it's me? Just look at this dandy cove, and you think I'm the dodgy one? I'm sorry, but no one's going to believe you. Well, what about evidence? Yeah. Where's your evidence that I've stolen something? Hey, come on, let's see it. Oh, I have evidence, naturally. You what? Let's see the evidence. Evidence that the article Mr. Lestrade redeemed actually belongs to this gentleman. Of course, we need only consult Mr. Windibank's ledger to know the truth. We'll be able to look up the name of the person who deposited the article in the first place. Yes, brilliant. I'm very sorry, but I'm afraid that won't be possible. Oh? I never ask customers' names. That's a strict policy of mine. Why wouldn't you? I don't understand that. If you know, somebody's bringing you an item, you'd record their names at least, or take their IDs. Well, they didn't really have that many IDs back then, but they'd still record names, but why not? Well now, as you can imagine, some of my customers have circumstances to consider. A great many of them prefer to maintain their anonymity. Yes, I see. But then how can you know if an article belongs to the person asking to redeem it? Oh, it's quite simple. He gives them tickets. Good sir. Might I trouble you for the watchword associated with the article in question? Of course. It's... Professor. Yes, that's right. And all the evidence we need. This gentleman is the rightful owner of the article. Without doubt, but that's not really proof. That he uses a code phrase. He could have overheard that somewhere or something like that. So even though Lestrade, she's a pickpocket, it's not necessarily proof that she had taken it. Unless we can directly tie the overcoat to him. A watchword, interesting. So, about these watchwords, Mr. Windibank, as I just explained. I never ask customers' names when they deposit items with me. There are many reasons why. Why certain customers would like to keep their activities secret. That wasn't exactly a subtle glance at Mr. Sholmes now, was it? Great detectives have no dark secrets, none at all. Yes, well, anyway, that's why I always ask for a watchword whenever I accept a new article. In many ways, it's like the secret combination of numbers used to unlock a vault. The date of deposit, a description, and a watchword uniquely identified each item. And of course, then I give the storage ticket to the customer. When someone comes to redeem something, I ask for the ticket and the watchword. And if that someone tells you the correct watchword, you return the article. That's right, sir. Yes, just as soon as the requisite fee is paid. And I have supplied you with the information you require already, but for the avoidance of doubt, the article in question is an overcoat, deposited 2 months ago on 15 February. With a watchword of Professor. All perfectly correct information, sir. But, ow! Really, this is beyond a joke now. There is no further room for doubt. Ah. Who is this guy? Picture postcard gentleman. Excuse me, but who are you? One would expect the inquirer to introduce himself first. Though clearly you are not British, so perhaps our ways are foreign to you. Oh, sorry, yes, we're from the Empire of Japan. We're studying here. Oh yes, Japan. I've heard talk of the place. Its inhabitants live on some fiery brown-colored soup dressed up with exotic spices, no? But you might be thinking of somewhere else. And what was that theoretical gesticulation about? Perhaps anyway, if you are a gentleman, sir, you offer your own name first before inquiring after the name of another. Of course, yes. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a lawyer, well, a student of law, really. My name is Susato Mikotoba. I am Mr. Naruhodo's assistant. I see. My name is Benedict Eggert. Eggert Benedict. And Shant. He's so refined in how he holds himself and how he speaks, but that name is suspicious. Now to the matter at hand. My overcoat, return it at once. To someone with the style that carried off. Every move he makes, every breath he takes, I can't stand watching him. Well, that doesn't match at all. So, let that be an end to the matter. And thank you for your custom, Mr. Eggert Benedict, sir. With such reasonable rates of interest, I may even decide to come back. Tisk, this is why I ate grown-ups. Just because I'm a diver, everyone thinks that makes me a liar. And the contents of the coat pockets, if you please, broker. But of course, sir, here is the disc for you. That disc is something important on it. Just this one. But if it could have recorded something else. Pardon, sir? I was expecting another, or that is, I deposited another disc. Oh dear. I regret to inform you, sir, that what was deposited with me was merely the overcoat. The disc happened to be in one of the pockets, but I was completely unaware of it until now. So gutterling, you're hiding more of what's rightfully mine, are you? Says who, eh? I don't know nothing about it. Very well. Then I shall bid you farewell. Say goodbye to style. Wait a minute. That disc is mine. What do you think you're doing, you little tramp? You've drawn blood, you filthy animal. What did she just do? Oh my. Yes, there's blood on the disc. It's because of all those sharp little bumps. That man must have scratched his finger on them. I found it first, alright. I mean, it belonged to me, old man. So you're not having it. You take it. Me? If I hang on to it, they'll have me off again, so you keep hold of it. Miss Lestrade, why is this disc so important to her? A metal disc used to play music in a mechanical music box. A piece of music which remains unidentified is stored on the disc by means of small proportions. You there, in the black livery. Hand that disc to me at once, please. No, don't. He's lying. Grown-ups are all liars. What do I do now? How am I going to resolve this? Oh, what's this? Does that say for McGilded? Oh, there's a little scrap of paper stuck onto the reverse side of the disc, look. And a scribbled word or two. It looks like somebody's name. For McGilded. McGilded? It couldn't be. But it is, Mr. Naruhodo. That's the guy who died. Name I shall never forget for as long as I live. But why? Why is his name on this? Good thing we investigated that. Look at all the little bumps on the disc. They're so tiny. Yes, the protrusions are called pins, and they pluck the teeth of the comb to make notes. And just on the edge, there's a small amount of blood. Yes, the blood of the mysterious Mr. Eggert Benedict. When Miss Lestrade tried to grab the disc from him, the pins scratched his fingers, it seems. Like when you're grating some daikon radish and accidentally catch your finger. Ouch. Just think about it, hurts and puts me off eating radish. Now I don't know what to do. Let me talk to a pawn shop guy. Mr. Windebag is clearly at a loss here. We have to do something about this before he reaches for that revolver of his. Let me talk to Gina here, because I don't trust that guy. Wow, Miss Lestrade is really looking daggers at that mysterious gentleman. We need to do something to calm things down before she loses control and attacks him again. Look at those piercing eyes. He's clearly in no mood to talk. We have to do something quickly before the mysterious gentleman leaves to fetch the police or something. We put it in here to play? Look at that Mr. Winbank watching delightfully over his shop. There are still so many things I'm curious about, but somehow I don't really feel like this is the right time to be browsing. Calming this fraught situation must be our first priority, and I'm fairly certain that we can find just the great thing we need among the articles here in this shop. Oh. Sherlock is here still. Mr. Sholmes? What are you examining with such keen interest there? As you enjoy a bar of caramel, I see. So, you found me at last, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry? After that young pickpocket sent me on my way, I was forced to lurk in the shadows, cruelly ostracized as the rest of you partook in that jovial atmosphere of fellowship. I wouldn't say it's fellowship. I had nothing to occupy my mind, but was too ashamed to let society see what my downfall had done to me. So feigning mock interest, I pretended to examine the tedious trinkets in this desolate place. Whilst is that a chocolate bar? As you surely observed, nodding on the only friend I have left, a 7% solution of caramel. Pray, do you claim to understand the depths of my despair, Mr. Naruhodo, but how could you? I was so lonely, so desperately lonely. Then why on earth didn't you rejoin the conversation? Things have gone from bad to worse, here, you know. Yes, I overheard much of your conversation. Or rather, in my craving for human contact, my ears devoured every word that was uttered. You really were sad, weren't you? Poor Mr. Sholmes. I feel simply awful for you. It would seem that my inferences are correct. Oh? Surely you're not about to tell us that you've solved the entire case once again. My dear madame, sometimes I wonder, were my genius for deduction to be commoditized, how much could I pawn it for? It seems Mr. Sholmes had another of his flashes of inspiration, but who knows if it'll help to resolve the situation between Miss Lestrade and the mysterious gentleman. What's the right thing to do here? Listen to the deduction. I'm scared because his deductions are always off. Well, Miss Lestrade, it would appear you find yourself something of a predicament. Tisk, where the blue blazes have you been, eh? Pardon? When a lady's in trouble, a true gent's supposed to be there to help. Straight away. Not an hour later while you chased him away. Harsh. And who, pray tell, are you? Mr. Eggert Benedict. You have in my eyes a veritably encyclopedic array of curiosities about your person. Nevertheless, there are two immovable conclusions I have drawn. I beg your pardon. The first is this. The true reason for your visit to this pawnbrokery today is something you have not yet revealed. And the second is this. A considerable crime is not contemplation. One you will orchestrate with intent to steal a vast sum of money. Well, Mr. Benedict, what do you say to my deductions? How? He's turned as white as a hard-boiled egg. It would seem that once again, Mr. Sholmes has made a flawless deduction. Just who do you think you are, sir? Ah, yes, as I hoped. This is precisely the pained expression I was looking for. So what is he hiding? What is Benedict hiding here? So, shall we begin? The time has come for yet another Herlock Sholmes. Logic and reasoning spectacular. Mystery man's aim. First of all, we must ask ourselves on what business you ventured this pawnbrokery today. You claim to have followed this pickpocket here, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. As revealed by that which you hold in your hand. Yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place is the staff recruitment flyer. The piece of paper in your hand, is a staff wanted advertisement from this very shop. Yet even the most unobservant would soon realize that a man of your experience has no need of such employ. In other words, there's some ulterior motive for your actions. The cane which you unwillingly clutched to your person exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What other rot? Yes, I've had this cane for years. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, missing ferrule. The end of any walking cane will be terminated with a metal ferrule to protect the wooden tip. And yet, detailed analysis shows that the wooden tip of this stick to be utterly bare. Therefore, there is only one conclusion. The rod that you hold in your hand, which appears to be a walking cane, is in fact no cane at all. You recoil, sir. Is something wrong? And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer of the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle which you evidently would like to conceal is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. From the moment I saw it, my suspicions were aroused. What walking cane demands the stout handle, mused I. But of course, as I said, this is no walking cane. No, that rod. Is the broken handle of a shovel. What? Are you insane? And now, having determined this undeniable truth, the conclusion is clear. Your true motive for coming here was to take employment at this establishment in order to excavate the ground beneath the premises. No. That is one of the most ridiculous deductions that I've heard so far. This is probably his worst deduction so far. I'm just, I don't know what to say right now. This guy is hiding something. That's clear. He has some ulterior motive here, but it's not this. What a calculated crime you have conceived, sir. A wickedly calculated crime. No. To tunnel underneath the pawnbrokery? No. Great crime. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, intend to excavate the ground beneath this pawnbrokery with a broken shovel. What on earth do you propose I could expect to find there? Some long-forgotten treasure, I suppose? Save for such a fanciful theory, what possible reason could I have to do as you say? Oh, but there is ample reason. As you are only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. And your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. What? Let us consider what would motivate a man to infiltrate a shop such as this and covertly dig beneath the floor. The answer is revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. This letter gives notice of public works to be carried out in the local area. And according to the enclosed plan of the upcoming sewage works, beneath the shop runs a sewer that adjoins another, one that runs under the bank on the opposite side of the road. This madness has entered the sewers now, has it? By excavating the ground beneath our feet, you would gain access to the waterway that flows in very close proximity to the Great Vault of the Financial Institute opposite. What are you? In summary, sir, you devised a master plan to pull off an elaborate bank robbery by dint of the underground tunnels. Master plan? Which brings us at last to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. With what plunder did the thief hope to make off from the underground vault of the bank? Are you quite serious? Having consulted with Scotland Yard some days ago, I happen to know the answer. But naturally, the answer is no secret to you, is it, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, the picture postcard tells us all we need to know. A postcard of the Great Exhibition. I'm afraid you've quite lost me. Currently in the final stages of preparation, the Great Exhibition will soon be underway, and the government has provided extra funds to complete its centerpiece, the Crystal Tower. Funds that currently sit in the vault of the bank, on the other side of this road. Pardon? Yes, the considerable crime you have been contemplating is the theft of that which sits in the vault of that bank, the special reserve funds for the Great Exhibition. Of course, that is top secret police information, so keep it under your hat, please. It's probably not a good idea you just told everyone that. To steal the Great Exhibition's reserve funds. No. Something's wrong with his deduction here. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this pawnbroking puzzle. Mr. Sholmes? Well, Mr. Naruhodo, an impressively upbeat deduction for a detective racked with loneliness, would you not agree? Was it true what you said about the bank over the road and what it has in its vault? Indeed, though few know of its existence, it is one of the government's most closely guarded secrets, and you just told everyone. Gregson told me, in the strictest confidence. But you just announced it to everyone here, rather loudly in fact. Ah, and if it's such a big secret, how would Mr. Benedict have come to find out about it? There can be only but one explanation for that. Clearly it's because the man is a criminal. But what if he didn't know anything about the money in the vault? If he is a criminal, as you said, then buying a brand new shovel is sure to be the first thing he does now that you've revealed the secret. Oh. Or if he doesn't, maybe Mr. Windibank will. He already has plenty of shovels here after all. All my life, I assure you, I'm not so unscrupulous. Well, hopefully this has taught you a valuable lesson. Sensitive information must be handled with the utmost of care. And you told us that by making a mistake. One can never be sure that someone privy to secrets won't disclose them, and once the word is out, it's out. Perhaps I'll think twice before confiding in you next time, Mr. Sholmes. An excellent idea, Mr. Naruhodo. An excellent idea. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, you know what to do, I'm sure. Yes, let's listen to that great deduction again, and see if we can massage it into shape. Very well then, let us start once more from the beginning. Of Herlock Sholmes' magnificent, logic and reasoning spectacular. Okay, let's find out what's really going on here. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. The man's aim, to tunnel underneath the pawnbrokery, no. First of all, we must ask ourselves at what business you have ventured to this pawn. You claim to have followed... Okay, we've already seen this all, so we're just not going to read it. So, by Mr. Sholmes' reasoning, Mr. Benedict came here in order to apply for a job so he could dig down through the floor? Yes, an attempt to tunnel into the sewers to gain access to the money in the vault of the bank across the road. But he wouldn't get very far with a broken shovel, would he? No, I think it's fair to say his motives lie elsewhere. The question is where? What did bring Miss Benedict here at this particular point in time? Okay, what's the question? Yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place? What brought the mysterious gentleman to Windibank's? Let's look at that flyer. It certainly is a flyer for Mr. Windibank's shop. Let's see. Windibank wants you. Pawnbroker's assistant required. It's an eye-catching advertisement, that's for sure. I've seen the same flyer up here inside the shop, I think. Perhaps Mr. Windibank is always in need of more staff. So Mr. Benedict came here to apply for a job? That's just too hard to believe. This cane. That's a proper English gentleman's cane, isn't it? Look at the beautifully polished brass in the handle. Yes, but Mr. Sholmes is right. It's not the sort of handle you usually see on a cane. Perhaps it's the latest London fashion. I mean, that's just guesswork, of course. Perhaps you could adopt a cane, Mr. Naruhodo. It might rather suit you. I have a feeling it might argue, with the sword around my waist. That silk top hat is whiter than white. Only an English gentleman could hope to carry off something so bright. But it looks so incongruous with the black overcoat, don't you think? Perhaps it's the latest London fashion. I mean, that's just guesswork, of course. Yeah, you know, I noticed that too. Like, it's like he's wearing all white and then he gets a black coat. How about, Mr. Naruhodo? I think you'd look very fetching in a white top hat. Well, you know, I think it might look rather incongruous, with my black university uniform, so... What is this? What is this here? Oh. Is that a drawing of Gina? Look at all the scribbled notes on the back of the flyer here. I don't believe it. What is it? Listen to what it says. Name, Gina Lestrade. Height, 5'2". Green cap, scruffy waistcoat, grubby white shirt, blue satchel, rag. It's a detailed description of Miss Lestrade. Goodness. There's even a sketch of her at all. Although if he showed it to her, she'd fire that smoke grenade launcher in his face for sure. And look, the details of the shop have been written down here too. Windibank's Pawnbrokery, Baker Street, redemption deadline, 15th April. Which is today's date. Why would Mr. Benedict have all that information scrawled on the back of that piece of paper? It's this.
Take that!
When it shatters like that, it means we're on the right track. Yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place is the info about Miss Lestrade. Quite so, my dear fellow. It would appear that the writing and sketch on the reverse of the flyer pertain to the pickpocket Miss Lestrade and to Mr. Windibank's pawnbrokery here. Ah. You originally told us that you had nearly given chase after Miss Lestrade stole the redemption ticket from you. But that, sir, is a thinly veiled lie. It is the information on the back of the flyer that led you here today, by which I mean here to Windibank's pawnbrokery, and today, the redemption deadline of that overcoat. So you waited outside for the young girl matching the description you have written down to arrive. And you have gone to some lengths to hide the reason for your pursuit of Miss Lestrade. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. The cane which you unwittingly clutched to your person exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What other rot? I've had this cane for years. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the missing ferrule. Sorry about that, guys. Still a little sick. What's a ferrule? It's the metal cap commonly found on the end of a cane, Mr. Naruhodo. The bit that makes the nice clacking sound on the pavement. Yes, exactly. Mr. Sholmes is right. It appears to be missing on this cane. But it doesn't actually look broken, does it? No, it doesn't. Though the gentleman certainly did recoil when Mr. Sholmes identified the cane as suspicious. In other words, there's some secret about the cane that Mr. Benedict would rather we don't know. Look here, Miss Susato. There are some letters on the handle. Yes. Those must be initials, I think. In the West, it's customary for people to engrave their belongings with the first letters of their names. So Herlock Sholmes would be SHS, you mean? That's right. And the initials on this cane, obviously... Oh. AG. Why does it feel as though that's not quite right? It's not his name on there.
Take that!
I got it. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the initialing. A most astute observation, wouldn't you say, Mr. Eggert Benedict? We are led to believe, sir, that your initials are EB. Yet in the most possessive manner, you have in your grasp a cane belonging to the initials, AG. An incontrovertible contradiction indeed, would you not agree? No. You're wrong. This cane isn't. You said before that you had the cane for years. Grr. So don't try to tell us that you just borrowed it from a friend or found it in the park. In short, though you hold yourself to be a gentleman, you have withheld your true name. You recoil, sir. Is something wrong? And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer to the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle which you evidently would like to conceal is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. Let's consider the bare bones of what's happening here. Miss Lestrade redeemed that fine-looking overcoat, and now mysterious man has appeared, introducing himself with a fake name, and claiming that the overcoat belongs to him. But we know that he actually identified Miss Lestrade from a written description, which suggests that everything else he's told us is untrue. So what do we need to do here? Is somehow prove that the overcoat cannot possibly belong to him. What's this here? Oh, the seam on the shoulder there is coming apart, look. So it is. Do you know, a moment ago, Mr. Benedict was surprised by something that was said. I thought I heard him make a rather strange noise. It sounded a bit like a tiny growl. But now I think it was probably the sound of this seam, ripping open. If you look closely, it does seem to be very tight fit. The sleeves are connected to bursting, and he wouldn't have a hope of fastening it at the front. If he were to run around in it, I'm sure the whole thing would fall apart. That I'd like to see. Sorry? So how can we make Mr. Benedict run around? She's really giving the idea some thought. Okay. Let's try this, see.
Take that!
Oh, we're right. The split seam, which you evidently would like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. Ah. Yes, because the overcoat is rather obviously a poor fit. Having forced it over your broad shoulders, the seam is already breaking apart. My suspicions were aroused from the outset. When you so badly lied about your name and so baldly waylaid this pickpocket. Ah. This catalog of untruths has all been for one very specific purpose. To steal the article that the young girl redeemed from Mr. Windibank. But what really irks me is this. The considerable crime I initially imagined has been considerably curtailed. To abscond with a redeemed item. But now what's the motive here? Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, designed a wheeze to flitch some tawdry article of pawnage. Have you forgotten that I redeemed the article in the proper manner, using the watchword? Had I not been the one to deposit it in the first place? How could I possibly have known the relevant details? Oh, but the watchword can be discovered. As you are only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. And your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. What? Let us consider how one might come to learn a secret watchword relating to the pawned property of another. This method is revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. The direction of the deduction must change rather dramatically now, I think. Yes, no more talk of tunneling into the sewers, which is a pity because it all sounded rather exciting. Anyway, you can't deny that this mysterious gentleman did know the watchword. Yes, Professor. If you didn't know that word, Mr. Windibank would never allow you to redeem the article. Or looking at it another way, if you did know that word, Mr. Windibank would allow you to redeem the article whether it was yours or not. So the question is, could this gentleman have found out the watchword somehow? What's this here? Look at this, Miss Susato. Ah, it appears to be a memo that Mr. Windibank has scribbled to himself. Let's see, what does it say? Oh, Professor. Oh. Anyone could have seen that. Mr. Windibank must make a note of the watchwords his customer give him right before their eyes. And an alarmingly clear script as well. Oh dear. I don't know where to look. Who knows what other secrets I might see. This.
Take that!
We got it. The method is revealed by the notelet on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. Yes, the broker here follows the same procedure whenever a customer comes to redeem an article. He asks the customer for the watchword and notes down the response uttered on a notelet he has to hand. Then he consults his ledger and confirms whether or not the watchword matches that of the article in question. So he waited until Gina came in the store and then he literally saw that word was written down there. I would expect nothing less of a diligent pawnbroker. But his diligence clearly has its disadvantages. What are you talking about? It is increasingly apparent that you were present in this shop before your accusation against Miss Lestrade. In all likelihood, you followed her inside and then observed her talking to Mr. Windibank. When the diligent broker made a note of the watchword, as is his common practice, you observed him writing the word Professor on the notelet beside the ledger. And that, sir, was the master plan you devised to steal the pawned article from the young Miss Lestrade. Master plan? Which brings us at last to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. Why would you go to such lengths to redeem that particular article from this pawnbroker? Are you quite serious? For an ill-fitting overcoat hardly seems to justify the effort, much less a worthwhile music box disc. But naturally, you had a very good reason to make them yours, didn't you, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, this picture postcard tells us all we need to know. The articles we're talking about are the overcoat and the music box disc that was in one of the pockets, which according to Mr. Windibank isn't even worth a penny, and yet this man went to such lengths to steal them. Why? I wonder if perhaps we already have the evidence we need to explain it, Mr. Naruhodo. Could we? Really? I better have a thorough look at all the evidence we've collected so far. Yeah, for McGilded, this,
Take that!
You see, this music box disc tells us all we need to know. What's that? On the back? It reads, for McGilded. Ah. That's the man that was murdered. Well, Magnus McGilded. The unfortunate philanthropist who perished in curious circumstances at the Old Bailey 2 months ago. A prominent man in London, though his loan mongering demonstrated distinct lack of scruples. So, you're an associate of his, are you? Or perhaps a subordinate? Mr. McGilded was a man of unusually small stature, in fact. He was precisely the right size for that overcoat that you've squeezed yourself into. Your true identity remains shrouded in mystery, Mr. Egbert Benedict. But the final conclusion here is crystal clear. The reason you came to this pawnbrokery today was to retrieve an article left behind by the late Magnus McGilded. We got it now. To acquire an item deposited by Mr. McGilded. Solved. Well, well, Mr. Magnus McGilded. Not a name I expected to hear in these circumstances. Mr. Sholmes, I'm afraid there's something very troubling on my mind. Pray tell, Miss Susato. Well, according to what Mr. Windebag told us earlier, today was the final day on which the coat could have been redeemed, was it not? Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Today would be precisely 2 months since it was first deposited. Well, today is 15th April, so 2 months ago today would have been the 15th February, sir. That's right. Wasn't that the same day that was the murder happened? The first murder with, the first murder with the poor brickmaker. Deposited at 10:30 p.m., I see. What? But that suggests... Yes, 15th February is precisely the day on which the omnibus murder took place. And 10:30 in the evening is precisely the time at which the terrible events were unfolding. Suggestive is not the word. It would seem the matter is entirely beyond coincidence. You are, of course, at liberty to make whatever outlandish deductions you choose. However, I must insist you hand over the music box disc, now. Oh great, he's got the gun off the counter. It would be a terrible shame for you to return to your native land in a box. What do I do? Okay, we're gonna save right here, because I don't know what's gonna happen if I say absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are some things a man must protect at all costs. This may well be one of those things. Then again, it may not. Mr. Windebank, this is my shop. I can't allow any harm to come, to my customers if that were to happen. I should have to take my own life. Well, how about you point it at him instead? Alright, that's enough. Inspector Gregson. Inspector? That's right, Sunshine. The alarm was raised on one of our dedicated emergency lines, so we got here as fast as we could. Now what's all this about, eh? Oh, praise be. You're here at last. I was moments away from forfeiting my own life in my very own establishment. He's still pointing the gun at us. It would seem you have the upper hand. Right, you have got some explaining to do. I don't appreciate being bothered with some petty, angry, bargee. Arrest him! Mr. Windebag very nearly met with his end. Yeah, by his own gun as far as I can tell. Oh dear. And the whole of Britain could meet with its end if I don't get to the bottom of the case I'm supposed to be working on. What? What on earth is the case, Inspector? Spare no detail, Gregson. I might have said a little too much. No matter, it's nothing to do with you lot. Anyway, sir, you're gonna have to come with me down to the station. But of course, Inspector. What just happened? Oh, great. He's running. Well, that was some incompetent police work right there. Why didn't they arrest the guy immediately when they walked in the shop? There's been a spate of thefts at pawn shops around here recently. So he fitted emergency buttons underneath the counters for brokers to let us know when there's trouble. Oh, Inspector, I was very worried there for a while. Very worried indeed. Now then, Mr. Permanently in mourning. Oh, yes? I'll be taking that whatever it is of McGilded's down to the yard. Thank you very much. So hand it over. Oh, yes, of course. No, don't. Don't give it to him. It's mine that is mine. Why does everyone want this disc so badly? I don't think it has music on it. I think it has something else. I'm sorry, miss. But anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken as evidence now. As evidence? If the police demand something as evidence, my dear fellow, we have no choice but to capitulate. Well, I don't know what it's like in Britain, but, you know, here, you know, in America, you would need a warrant for this type of stuff, unless, you know, unless it's something that you arrest on the person over. It's like a crazy situation then. It's all yours, Inspector. Grr. And so, we handed Mr. McGillet's disc over to Inspector Gregson, and we were summarily turfed out of the shop and onto the street. To be continued. Wow, what the hell is going on here? So it looks like the omnibus thing is finally going to be cleared up now. So, I mean, thank you guys for watching. I'm having a lot of fun with this, but that guy was definitely suspicious. I felt something off was about him. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this part. If you guys enjoyed this series, please do drop a like because it does help this series out. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone.